This is a compilation of clips from the Jimmy Dore show yesterday, which would be January 10th, I believe. It was put together by Twitter user at Nitsky89. And I want to play these clips from the Jimmy Dore show because he's really going on about COVID here. Let's take a listen.
There's a big debate about whether they should open the schools because of COVID and because Omicron is so much more contagious. The symptoms of Omicron are very mild.
First of all, again, there is a debate about it. Again, like I mentioned in a previous segment, there's a debate about opening up the schools in the figment of the imaginations of all of these people who think that schools are closed. There are specific school districts, and I think maybe one or two citywide, maybe three even, citywide closures due to labor disputes. But other than that, there is no like broad school closing, not via any city government, any state government, or the federal government.
They're like a cold. And a lot of people are saying that's good because that signals the end of the pandemic, because now we're going to become endemic and now it will just circulate. And the symptoms that it will present with are those of a cold, even though it's not, it's the Omicron cold.
I mean, people are still dying. A lot of people. What was the COVID deaths in the U.S. Just yesterday or today? Let me check. Yesterday, almost 1,700 people died. January 7th, last Friday, 2,651 people died in the U.S. Day before that, almost 2,000 people. Over the weekend, I guess the rates that are reported are lower. But on the weekdays, I guess, when they catch up with the deaths that weren't reported over the weekend, we get we're averaging about close to 2,000. I think it's 1,750, 1,700, 1,800 deaths per day in the U.S. Still. With hundreds of thousands hospitalized.
So everybody shitting their pants about kids having to go to school are just repeating propaganda from big pharma funded establishment news. Congratulations. Do you know the damage?
What? I gotta hear this again.
Everybody shitting their pants about kids having to go to school are just repeating propaganda from big pharma funded establishment news.
The unions? Is that the big pharma funded establishment news? The Chicago Teachers Union? Is that who you're talking about? The big pharma funded news is the Teachers Union?
Congratulations. Do you know the damage that is done to kids not being socialized in schools?
I mean, we've discussed this. I would say the damage done to children who've buried a grandma or grandpa or mom or dad is probably much more.
We don't even know, but it's great.
Okay, so let's get this straight. We don't know what the damage is, but I know it's great. I mean, you don't know that. And again, it's been years. I think for every school in this country, it's been over a year at this point. Schools are back. There are no statewide, citywide, countrywide school closures.
The Chicago Public Schools Teacher Union are so fear-mongered, they just voted to end in-person school.
I'm really trying to understand here. Because this is a guy, Jimmy Dore, who presented himself as a labor guy, right? He's the advocate for the working class. He's a representative of the working people. And here he is on the other side of the Chicago Teachers Union, basically first calling them big pharma funded establishment news, and then pivoting to, no, they're actually brainwashed by the big pharma establishment news. They're not. Now, this is a labor guy saying the union doesn't know what they're doing. They're not actually fighting for themselves. They're not actually fighting for what they want. They're just brainwashed.
They are at a higher risk of contracting the Omicron cold. Yes. Yeah. They are at a less risk for severe disease. So what you're saying is we're using the word risk now to describe the symptoms of a cold. So kids are at greater risk of catching something that will present as a cold.
Top 5.
I mean, you wouldn't want your kid to get the flu or pneumonia, right? I mean, I'm trying to understand this. Does Jimmy Dore have kids? Because, listen, I got 2 kids. One is of school age. The other one is going to be of school age very soon. And I obviously went to school, and I have 3 younger siblings who are a lot younger than me. 7, 8, 10 years younger than me. That's each one of them. 7 years, 8 years, 10 years younger than me. So growing up, I was in my teens while they were very small children. And from my own knowledge of everything here, even before the COVID pandemic, you were an asshole parent if you sent your kid to school, if they were sick, like really sick especially. Because you would obviously get other kids and teachers and faculty sick too. So here we are during a pandemic, and apparently it's just fear-mongering? Like, I'm trying to understand here. Like, this is schools we're talking about. Just, I don't understand here. What's going on here?
We reported symptoms. So this is the early London data, right? Most common, runny nose. Second most common, headache. Third most common, fatigue. Sometimes the fatigue was bad, sometimes it was mild. Fourth most common feature, sneezing. Fifth most common feature, sore throat. The implication is obvious. If you have any of these and you've had colds in the past, you're going to think it's a cold, but it may well not be. It may be a Omicron cold. Need to get tested.
So there you have it. That's what people are locking down to avoid that.
No. People are locking down. Listen, I'm someone who got COVID, and that were pretty much my symptoms. I did not lock down because I didn't want anyone else to get a runny nose. And when I say lockdown, I didn't. The 10-day, now 5-day CDC quarantine. My family didn't quarantine because we didn't want to give someone a runny nose or a headache. We took precautions because we didn't want someone to get COVID. And what is a runny nose and headache in me could be hospitalization and the inability to breathe in somebody else. And we haven't even discussed all these new studies coming about the long-term effects of COVID, where children who got COVID, we're seeing higher chances of them in developing diabetes. There's a study that came out showing that. And all the other long-term COVID symptoms we're seeing, long COVID, people, problems breathing for the long term, heavy fatigue, and headache issues, not the little headache that he's talking about, like literally like debilitating. There are literally people who are still being Hundreds of six figures of people in the hospitals. Still, 1,700, 1,800 deaths a day in this country.
They think it's to avoid something more deadly. They're misinformed. Why? Because they're getting their information from the establishment. I'll tell you what I think. We should keep them open and kids should be going to schools.
Let me tell you something who's misinformed and who is giving you the establishment's news. If you're a Jimmy Dore viewer, you are being brainwashed. You are being misinformed. You think this guy is your left-wing working class hero? Let me show you something, and let me show you something right now that I'm going to tell you this. You're probably not going to believe me, but if you really want, I could ask the guy to come out and back me up. I have a acquaintance, a neighbor, who lives around me. He recognized me when I moved into my current apartment building from the Majority Report, and not because he's a huge Majority Report fan. He recognized me because he is actually a Jimmy Dore fan. And whenever we've run into each other, we've had friendly discussions and debates. We run into each other when he's walking his dog usually, and I'm going out with my kid or to pick up my kid from school or whatever. And we have discussions and we disagree on a number of things. I recently ran into him, and he said to me he was very disappointed in what he's seeing with Jimmy Dore. This is a Jimmy Dore fan, mind you. And this is what he showed me. I don't go to Jimmy Dore's channel. My consumption of Jimmy Dore is usually when a clip goes viral on Twitter or something. But he said to me he was on Jimmy Dore's channel and he was very upset at what he saw. And it's really bothering him. This is a Jimmy, again, want to make a Jimmy Dore fan here. And this is what he was referring to. If you look at the Jimmy Dore channel, again, this is a guy who is a left-wing Jimmy Dore watcher. And he said he was on Jimmy Dore's channel page. And what upset him was he saw all the anti-vaxx content. He talked to me about this. I think it was yesterday. So some of these clips weren't up yet. But here we can just look. 5 hours ago, French president vows to punish unvaxxed. 57,000 views. Suddenly, liberals mocking the CDC from Jimmy Dore. 176,000 views. Judge orders Pfizer vax data released. 126,000 views. Corporate news smears Supreme Court as anti-vax. 145,000 views. Supreme Court Justice spreads COVID misinformation, I believe it says. Yes. 148,000 views. Here we go. We get to our first supposedly left-wing issue. Forced to Vote 1 year anniversary special. 50,000 views. And then we could just go back to the COVID stuff, right? Howard Stern cowers from the unvaccinated. 334,000 views. Obese podcaster actually criticizes Joe Rogan's health. Is talking about Ethan Klein from H3H3 criticizing Joe Rogan for spreading COVID misinformation. 481,000 views. Twitter silences Dr. Malone ahead of Joe Rogan appearance. Almost 200,000 views. The lowest, and the lowest video I could find, not counting this one that was put up 10 hours ago, because that's going to get more views than this one, is from 2 days ago and was supposed to be Jimmy Dore's bread and butter, right? The Forced to Vote, right? The Forced to Vote 1 year anniversary special only netted 51,000 views from Jimmy Dore's audience. Because he knows what plays now. If you are a left-wing Jimmy Dore watcher, he doesn't care about you because he's got his new audience. It's the anti-vaxxers. Look at all the views they're giving him. It's big business for Jimmy. You want to talk about establishment news? He's spreading the same misinformation that you hear from that woman I played earlier who works for the anti-teacher union organization who's funded by Bill Gates, the Walton family, and Charles Koch. These are the views he shares. He's got his right-wing audience that loves this anti-vaxxer stuff too. 51,000 views for the only supposed left-wing video in the past couple of days. Everything else, anti-vax, 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 COVID, 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 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 views. So please, if you're watching Jimmy Dore, know why you're getting the content you're getting. And I remind you, I was shown this. This was pointed out to me by a left-wing Jimmy Dore supporter, viewer, who told me he noticed this and was very disappointed.